everybody, welcome to Board Game Heaven. My name is Raymond, and in this video I'll be taking a look at How Dare You by Alion Games from Norway, designed by Rodrigo Rego and developed by Christian A. Ostby and Kjetil Svensson. This is a party game for 1 to 10 players, which plays in about 15 minutes for ages 14 and up. And it's basically a trivia game where you're trying to guess a number, a certain percentage or whatever, and trying not to over guess the actual answer of the game. And then somebody can dare you if they think that you've gone beyond that number. And it's about getting those cards, and you get points on those cards, and you're trying to get as least points as possible. Now, before I start explaining exactly how to play the game, I'd like to thank the publisher for giving me a copy to review. And I'd also like to ask you to please hit that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed already. But if you have, you're an absolute legend. Thank you so much. That really helps the channel. You can also support what I do by going to my Patreon page, and patrons of my channel get early access to all of my videos, access to Patreon exclusive videos, and their names in the credits as a supporter. All right, let's take a look at the game. So to play How Dare You, you simply take all of the cards from the deck. There's also a number of doubling cards which you can leave out if you're playing the standard game. I will explain the advanced rules in a bit. And all of these cards have 6 questions on them. So you put them with this side up on the table. You can shuffle the deck if you've played it before. And then you simply start playing. So the first player simply picks a number, or you roll a d6 if you want to, and you read out that question. So for example, here the first question says, it's a fruits question, and it says the percentage of water in a watermelon. So then the person to the left of the player who read the card will make a guess. So maybe they'll say 20%. And then the next player might say, well, that's certainly more than that, so I'm going to say 30 or 40%. And then so on and so on and so on until somebody, for example, says, I think it's 90%. And the next player doesn't want to go over that, and they will dare the previous player if they think that the actual answer is lower than what the previous player answered. So they can say, well, I dare you. And then that player will simply check the card. So you turn the card over and you check the answer, and it says 92, and 6% is sugar of the watermelon. So if they said 90, then they were actually still below that number, so that makes them correct. And the person who dared them will then take this card, and this card has 4 silly geese on it right here. So that's 4 points, and you want to score as little points as possible, because at the end of the game you count up your points, and the person with the most points loses the game, and all the other players are the winner. Now the game ends after the 10th round, or when in a certain number of players somebody has a certain number of cards. So in a 2 to 4 player game, when somebody has 5 cards, then the game ends, and then you count up your score. If you're playing with 5 or 6 players, that's 4 cards, and with 7 plus, that's 3 cards. And then there's the advanced rules. There's 3 extra rules that you can play in the advanced version. So first of all, you can double dare. So when somebody says a number, then the next player, they can double dare. So you can do that when you're very certain that the previous player answered something that was higher than the actual answer. You can double dare them. And if they accept the double dare, then the player who was wrong will not only take the card that is currently being questioned, but also the next card. And you don't know how many points are on the next card because they're all stacked. So you could risk having a lot of extra points. But of course, if the person who double dared was wrong, and the person who set the previous answer was actually still below the answer, then the person who double dared will take those 2 cards. You can also double, so you take these doubling cards. There's a number in the game, but they're technically infinite. So if you run out of cards for those, you can use coins or whatever you have available. And when you double, then that means whenever somebody says a number, for example, let's take the watermelon again, and somebody says 40%, and you think, well, it's at least twice that much. So I'm going to say 80% or more perhaps. But if you say at least double what the previous player said, then you could take a doubling cards. You simply take a card and you keep that in front of yourself, and every card that you have will cancel one of the negative points, one of the silly geese, at the end of the game when you score. And then finally, the third advanced rule is throwing a fit. Now, whenever somebody says a number that is exactly the answer, and you think that that is the answer, because of course you don't know that beforehand, but maybe you're just very clever and you already know the answer. So the person before me says, hey, the percentage of the watermelon is 92%, and I just happen to know that it is 92%, then I can't dare them. So I can either say, well, it's 93%, and hope the next player doesn't dare me and just play like normal, or I can throw a fit. So you simply say, I'm throwing a fit because you have the exact correct number, and if you are indeed correct, if that player did in fact have the exact number, then nobody gets a card. The card is simply discarded, so if it was in fact 92%. But if you were wrong, then you get all the cards in the game and you instantly lose in a very humiliating fashion. Which of course means the game immediately ends and the player who threw a fit loses the game and everybody else wins. And that's that. It's a pretty silly trivia game, but let's go to my final thoughts. So my final thoughts on How Dare You by Alion Games. Let's start with the components. You simply get a small tug box and a deck of cards of a very good quality, standard card thickness, I think. They feel very sturdy and they are big enough so you can read what's on them pretty well. The font is very easy to read, has the big numbers 1 through 6 as well, and it also clearly has the number of geese on it that you score when you get a card, and you want to score as little as possible, of course. And you get a leaflet with the rules, which is also very clearly explained on just 2 pages. So the components are very basic but good, and yeah, nice and compact. So I like that a lot. The artwork is nice. There's not a whole lot of it, of course. I like the 2 people on the cover here looking very sweaty and like they're all bluffing, and so that looks fun. And otherwise, there's just the geese, really, the geese heads that are on the cards and on these doubling cards. So yeah, that's fine. The rest is just text. And there is a little bit of art here in these comic strips that explain the rules. So I guess that's good. I like the box the most, really. The theme isn't really here. There's not really a theme because it's a trivia game, really. You're trying to guess a number, and you're trying not to overshoot that number, and you're trying to dare the previous person when you think they overshot. So let's just go straight to the gameplay then. I think this is a really funny party game. It's a trivia game. Everybody, well, a lot of people like trivia games, but everybody can play it. You just pick a number, or you roll a die if you want to. You can roll a d6, but you can just pick a number and then read what the card says, and then say, hey, what's the percentage of water in a watermelon? And then the next person, just guesses a number. And then you have to think, well, do I want to go over that number, or is that already gone too far? And do I dare them? That's basically all there is to it. But it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of laughs to be had here. There's some very silly questions in here. And there's plenty of questions because there's 6 on each card. And you get a whole deck of cards. So before you've gone through all of these questions, you'll have played plenty of games. And of course, by the time you shuffle and replay some of those cards, you probably won't remember all the answers. So there's plenty of gameplay here, and I guess they can easily make expansions for this as well. So yeah, I really like these kind of trivia games. I like trivia games in general, but if they're made a little bit funny like this, they have a twist where you need to guess as close to the answer as possible, but not go beyond that number, then yeah, it adds a little bit of bluffing, and you can, like with the advanced rules, that's a lot of fun where you can double dare someone, or do the doubling with the geese cards, or even throw a fit, which is funny when you think that somebody has the exact correct number, so you can't really say how dare you, because you know that they're gonna win. So then you can throw a fit, and hopefully if they were correct exactly, then nobody gets a card. But if you were wrong, then you instantly lose because you get all the cards in the deck, which is kind of silly. But the game is only about who loses, really, and everybody else is a winner. So there's a bit of tongue-in-cheek there. It's just silly. And I do appreciate that. I like to bring this along and just play it on a party night with friends, and that's a lot of fun. Replayability is pretty high because, again, it's a trivia game. It's a lot of fun. You just want to keep on playing again and again and again, several rounds in a row. So, you know, it's as fun as long as you like playing it, or the people you play it with enjoy themselves. Finally, there is language dependency, of course, because all of these cards are in English. So it is a game where you need to be proficient enough in the English language in order to play this. Otherwise, you could play it with one person who knows English and who just translates the questions for the other players. That works too, but there is that, of course. This is a language-dependent game, so keep that in mind. In the end, I really enjoyed this. I think it's an excellent game. It's a fun party game. It's an excellent filler, and I'd like to thank Alion Games for giving me a copy to review. Very much appreciated. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Also, please check out my Patreon page by clicking the link in the description below or the icon at the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on Board Game Heaven.